And we're back. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Steven. I'm joined remotely by my friend Daniel. I am Romanian. Daniel's Danish. What the fuck is going on? Daniel, how has your week been?
It has been eventful and uneventful.
Wow, that says nothing and everything.
Indeed. Okay, so a lot of things has happened, but it's been like a lot of like small things. So I started a new semester, and that means just new classes and things like that. So a lot of that. Uh, then I've been just working on books, and then I've been writing some, watching and writing, and doing a lot of just small things.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What are you writing?
I call it a reverse haunted house story
All right.
because it's told from the house perspective.
So is the house being haunted or
Well, it's sort of a joke on the idea that when a house is haunted, it's not actually ghosts, it's the people living in it because a house is made to be lived in. So
all
it's
right?
always haunted. Uh yeah, and that's sort of the idea I have going on right now. Not really much more
Is
than that.
there like a paranormal investigator in the story?
No.
I think there should be.
Oh my god, that means I have to research paranormal investigators. That would be hilarious,
Mm.
actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah,
Uh,
Ghost Adventures. You have 11 seasons worth of
yeah,
research
yeah.
there, Daniel.
I mean, that would be all my research. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
The second book project I'm thinking about is about planes.
All right.
Because I don't know, I've had this fascination with writing about planes and sort of aeronautic history for a while. Uh, And I was thinking of a way you could do that without writing about war, because war and planes are sort of interlinked.
I guess
Uh,
so.
I haven't really figured out a way to do that, but I
You
don't
know
know.
what's interesting about planes?
Yeah.
I saw a documentary. I think it's actually a YouTube made series of documentaries about the airplane route to I think is the South Pole. Yeah, the South Pole.
Okay.
Because it only travels once every couple of months.
Yeah.
And essentially, they don't have a landing strip because it's covered with ice.
Yeah.
So, more or less, you have to guess where like the pilot has to more or less guess where he's supposed to land.
Okay. That sounds terrifying.
Yes.
So, I kind of have this idea of maybe putting a bunch of characters on like a military air base, and then just have them never really be deployed, because I was reading up on World War II pilots, and a lot of those were like waiting, because if you were a World War II pilot in Britain, for instance, well, mostly in Britain, you were basically just waiting to be deployed. If it's like, okay, you're gonna fly this area outside of like Dover, and if you meet some Germans, you're gonna meet some Germans, and if you're not, you're not. And then when you're done, you go home, basically. So they weren't deployed in the same sense as like the troops that were deployed on like the fronts, because they were basically deployed at home. And there are a lot of weird stories of like, I think it was, were they Polish or were they Romanian? They might have been Polish pilots who escaped and went to Britain, and then basically became like the best pilots.
All right.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm still spitballing ideas, but
I have an idea. What
sure.
if the bad guy is a plane? Like the parents of the main character were in this plane that's possessed by an ancient Sumerian demon, and this plane kills his parents by crashing, and then somebody uses spare parts from that cursed plane to build a new state-of-the-art plane that this main character, who's the son of the previous parents, is flying, and
And
now he has to escape ghost plane.
the actual reveal is that the plane that the son is flying is a 737 Max.
No, the twist is that that the plane is heading for the Twin Towers.
Oh God, no, no,
Yes.
no.
I think we have gold on our hands, Daniel.
I think we have shit on our hands. Actually, now that you were saying old Samaritan demon, what was the name of the demon in The Exorcist?
Pazuzu.
Pazuzu. Pazuzu. Pazuzu.
Pazuzu.
Pazuzu?
Pazuzu.
Kokumo.
Bazuzu. That was all I could think of.
Pazuzu.
Bazuzu.
No, it's Pazuzu, I think.
Isn't it Basuzu with a B?
Kokumo?
Who cares? Why are we arguing about this?
I don't know. I'm asking the question.
I am Pazuzu.
I will spit a leopard.
What a terrible name. Somebody must have looked at that name and like, can't we figure out a better demon name? Like,
No, nobody cared.
nobody cared.
It's the least important part of the movie.
Yeah, but it sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, I think they talk about it more in the sequel, and that's how everybody learned about the name.
Oh, the Exorcist sequels.
Exorcist 2. The Heretic.
Hey, Exorcist 3 is pretty good. Fuck
Which
you.
one? Which one is Exorcist 3? Is that the prequel one?
No. It's the sequel. So you have Exorcist 2, which is whatever the fuck that is.
Yep.
And you have Exorcist 3, which is it's more of a sequel to Exorcist 2. It's directed by the writer of the novel.
Which one is the one with the hospital scene, where it's like this long take staring at the nurses, and then suddenly some guy comes out with like giant scissors?
Yeah, that's 3. That's 3.
That's 3. Okay, I thought that
Legion.
was
2. It's Exorcist 3 Legion. That's
okay.
Yeah, it's with the old guy from the 12 Angry Men remake.
Wait, there was a remake of of
yes,
12?
in the 90s. It was pretty good. Shut up.
But
He was in Patton.
okay.
George
Yeah.
C. Scott. Yeah,
Right.
and he plays a detective in Exorcist 3, and he's pretty fucking good.
Okay.
No, I genuinely think Exorcist 3 is really good. I would argue it's almost as good as the first one. Fuck you.
Okay. Does it have as
Actually-
much tubular bells?
Actually, initially the idea was to it's a very mild mannered movie compared to the first one. It's not as flashy.
Okay,
And
yeah.
it's more of a character study. Like, it's basically about George C. Scott and his own sort of character arc. That's the whole movie.
Yeah.
But the studio was like, it's called Exorcist. Shouldn't there be an exorcism in The Exorcist? Yeah, there's 2 endings technically. So they reshot the ending to have an exorcism in it. Which is pretty good. Like, it looks awesome. It doesn't really make that much sense within the rest of the movie, but it's fine.
Sure. Okay.
Like, it's miles better than the prequels with what's his face? The Swedish actor.
Skarsgård?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
those
know
are-
which one. There's like 10 of them.
There's 2, and he's in both of them because they did one, and then he saw how bad it was, and then reshot it.
There's at least 3. There's Stellan, there's Alexander, and there's Bill.
Bill, are they all 3 related? Maybe they're just
Yeah,
just
Stellan is their dad,
All right. Well, yay for nepotism, I guess.
I guess. Well,
Fucking assholes.
so outside of doing that, I've also watched some things.
Oh my.
And been reading some stuff. I continued reading Rebecca, which we talked about last time.
So how is
And
it? Better? No.
It's very meandering,
Oh.
and like it's an older book and it's very much written.
Is the
in
twist
that.
at the end that it was written by Stephen King?
No, it's not 1,000 pages.
All right.
Also, there's no drunk writers in it. But
no racist people from Maine.
Yeah. So far, the main character, who still is not named,
As you do.
has married the Lord of Manderley, the house, this big like Gothic mansion, and she's basically being heckled by the housekeeper, who's like, oh, the old wife used to do things a lot better, and and that's been like the last 200 pages of the book.
Jesus.
And
terrible.
yeah, a lot of cricket talk, which is fascinating.
When people read Tolkien's Lord of the Rings and they thought, wow, this has a bunch of description. This is how books should be written. I'm starting to believe that was a mistake.
Actually, the thing Rebecca does that really annoys me is that it uses a lot of like comparisons in its writing. So whenever it says something, it's like, oh, this was like this.
All right.
And that's like 90% of the descriptors in the book, and
Jesus
it's kind of
Christ.
It's kind of it's overdone, really. There are some hints at some twists. Yeah, there might be some. There might be some twists at the end. I don't know. So yeah, I'm at least gonna finish it. Like I think I'm over halfway through it. I don't know. I'm staring.
I'm in this deep. I can't get out of it.
Yeah, I'm staring at the book and it's like halfway across the room and I can't reach it. It's like, I don't care enough to pick it up. Anyway,
that's fine.
On the TV and movies side of things, not really much. Like in the endless, the endless search for good things on Netflix. I tried watching a show called Frontier, which is
never heard of it.
It has Jason Momoa in the lead role.
Jason Momoa?
No, Momoa.
I know it's a joke.
Yeah, I know. I was just not acknowledging the joke.
You're not selling my joke at all.
Nope. And it's it's okay, I guess. It is.
What is it? A sci-fi show? Is it?
No, it's about like it's set in the like, when is it set? Like 17th, 18th century, and it's like fur trade in Canada.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So it's a Discount Revenant, basically.
Okay. All right. I assume somebody's into this shit.
I mean, it had 3 seasons, so.
There's 3 seasons? I thought this was like the first one, or okay.
No, there's 3 seasons. I mean, there are only 6 episodes a season, but you know.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, whatever. Sure.
I would say it's fine. Like it's the equivalent of a 5 out of 10. It's like, it's fine.
It's 5 out of 10. Must watch.
No, I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, honestly.
All right.
Unless you're really into like Jason Momoa and fur trade for some reason. Also, thick accents. Hoo boy.
Does Jason Momoa have an accent?
No,
like
Jason Momoa is just like Jason Momoa is just basically playing Jason Momoa, but there is a lot of other people who are like heavy like Irish accents, which is
really
like,
no North Dakota accents.
No.
No Fargo accent.
No, unfortunately not, Steven.
Jesus.
Then last night I watched the first 2 episodes of Lock and Key, which has started.
Oh wait, that you told me about this. It's Stephen King's son.
Yeah, Joe Hill, who is Stephen King's son.
Why isn't he named King?
Because I don't know. Because Dad, I want to do it without your name. I don't know.
All right.
But he wrote a comic which is called Lock and Key, which has had a long history of trying to get adapted to TV. Like originally it was Fox that was supposed to make it, and then they made a pilot which I think they showed at some kind of like convention. I remember hearing that, but they decided not to make it into a show, and now Netflix has made it. And it's about a family that moves into their old, like their dad is dead, and they're moving into his like family home called Key House, and they figure out that it's full of like magical keys that can do all these sorts of things.
Wow.
And it's okay so far.
All right.
It looks nice. The acting is surprisingly okay, given that most of the actors are kids, so that's at least something. Yeah.
All right.
It reminds me a bit of Haunting of Hill House. Just
Your enthusiasm is crushing me, Daniel.
I know. Like, well, they can't all be uncut gems.
Some of them have to be cut.
Yeah, some of them have to be cut.
I've never seen uncut gems. I only saw the theatrical cut. I only saw gems. I didn't see uncut gems.
What if there's the director's cut? There's like director's gems?
Uncut gems.
Great.
It's the sequel to Uncut Gems. It's called Pebbles.
It's called Cut Gems. That's basically it. That's what I've been doing this week.
All right. My turn?
Sure.
Yay. All right. So, pretty busy week altogether. Didn't have a lot of time to watch a bunch of shit. But I did check out some stuff. I usually have a lot of stuff on my back catalog that I want to check out and, reserved some time for that. Yeah. Like, I watched a bit of the anime Made in Abyss.
Oh, that's good. That's a good one.
You watched all of it?
Yeah.
All right. I thought it was a bit, I don't know. There's some, man, can we talk about some stuff?
Sure.
I understand that Japan has a different culture and all that stuff. And that's very cool. That's part of the appeal of watching anime, right? Uh-huh. But there's some weird stuff in anime that whenever it comes up, I am so, like, it's almost like I get whiplash from it. Like,
yep.
There's this robot kid in the anime, in Made in Abyss. And the first instinct that everybody has, especially other men, when they see him, is to check out whether or not he has a dick. There's this big ass dude who grabs this little boy and then looks into his pants to see if he has a dick. What the fuck? Why is this anime? People worked on this, Daniel. Like tens of people animated this sequence.
More than tens of people.
Nobody thought this was weird?
Okay, actually, fun fact about Made in Abyss, before we get into that whole discussion, it was actually co-made by one of the Ghibli animators.
Yes, I know that, yes.
One of the more famous Ghibli background artists actually worked on this.
Yeah, and you can tell, like, the creatures look awesome.
Yeah, but, okay, how to explain Made in Abyss? Made in Abyss is a horror manga?
Yeah, Daniel, I don't care. I want you to explain to me why people look at little boys' dicks.
Because the thing is weird. Like, okay, so as far as I can understand, whenever somebody makes a manga in Japan, they, depending on the content of the manga, they can get published in different magazines. Okay?
All right.
So if you're making like Dragon Ball, you don't have that much, adult content and things like that, so you can be published in this magazine, for instance, which is aimed at a certain user group and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Made in Abyss, as far as I know, was published online first. And
all right.
I've only read a bit of the manga, but the manga is also that kind of weird. Actually, I would say more so, which is
Yeah, but all right, I'm not satisfied by your answer, because
what do you want me to say?
It's just weird.
Yeah.
But this isn't the only thing that's like this.
I know.
There's a lot of bizarre fetishization of young people.
Yeah.
Where there's this thing where there's a certain type of character, like a trope, where
Yes.
it's a young girl that is also sexualized, even though she's very young.
Yes.
It's so creepy.
Yes, it is.
What's
It
even
is.
funnier about Made in Abyss is that you have a young girl in this. She's not sexualized. What they decide to sexualize is a young robot boy.
Yes.
Well, they don't even sexual. That's even worse somehow.
Like,
Because
okay,
what I mean by sexualizing, I mean usually by designs or by the way they move,
Yeah.
right? Like they sort of put them in scantily clad clothes or something like that.
Yeah.
But
like,
the designs in this are very, like, they're very rounded, very kid friendly, I would say.
yeah, which is in stark contrast to the actual show, which is horrifying. I don't know how far you got into
I
it.
would be okay. Yeah, it's just,
Well,
I don't know.
I don't.
Because
Yeah.
this
Okay.
doesn't really introduce any sort of horror element to it. Like, for example, if you have creatures that threaten the children or whatever, that makes sense because it's a horror show. I get what this is supposed to be.
Yeah.
But it's just random scenes of people checking out this little boy's junk. It might actually be junk because he's a robot. Like, that doesn't really contribute to anything.
No, but I think it's supposed to be played off as a joke.
I think so, yeah, but it's not
I don't know.
funny.
No, it isn't. But
No,
I don't know.
Whatever. But the anime is very good. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10 would recommend. No, actually, I actually quite enjoyed it when I watched it. I don't know how far you're into it.
I can actually check right now. I think 4 or 5 episodes in.
Okay, so you're pretty far. You're like almost halfway through it, basically.
Yeah. I got to the crazy lady who.
Oh, okay.
The former White Whistle.
Yeah, the very strong lady who's creepy as hell.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have met some of the like horror elements. I thought you'd just been like the first episode or something.
No. But it's just elements like that really jump up at me. Where it's like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? Why is
But
this here?
that's the thing I find a lot with anime and also manga in general is that at some point it will introduce something where you're just sitting there going, what? Like, again, like you talked about with the sort of over sexualization, like that is a thing that happens, and it's I don't like it.
Yeah, they call it fan service, right?
Yeah, but fan service is more of a broader term. It's basically just giving fans what they want, hence the name.
Yeah, but I mean specifically in Japan,
I don't know. I don't know if it's just a term that's used to explain, like just a name it's been given, or if it's actually like, because think about it. Like if you're watching something like Made in Abyss and you know that it's supposed to be like horror, are you really? Is it really expected of the fans that they're gonna make fun of this kid's junk, or
That's not something that I think about whether or not I should expect it or not.
Yeah, but it's like I hear a lot of people try to.
They don't even make fun of it. They're just very curious. Like the first thought that bolts into their brains when they see a robot kid is that, oh my god, does he have a penis? And I'm gonna check it out to see if it's there or not.
Yeah,
it's just very strange. I don't know.
That's also why I think the sort of naming of it, calling it fan service, is really odd, because it's like, even like the more I want to say normal, but it isn't. Like, it's common, the sort of over sexualization of characters. It's like, is that really what people come to the format for? Like,
I don't know. Maybe
I don't
some.
know. Like, I don't know. Maybe.
All right. Anyway, moving on.
Moving on.
I also watched a bit of the series, The New Pope, The Young Pope, sorry, and the sequel series, The New Pope.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also finished.
It's awesome.
Okay, I didn't like The Young Pope. I haven't seen The New Pope.
Really? Okay. It's very slow, right?
Yes, it is very slow.
But I watched most of it while doing some other stuff, but then by the time I finished the stuff, I was actually engaged in the show.
Okay, I found it a bit sort of hard to get into. I don't know.
I think
Like
the
it-
one thing that is a bit hard to relate to the show is the portrayal of the Vatican as this, maybe as this sort of a be-all, end-all type institution. Maybe because I'm not Catholic, I don't really understand that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really see the Pope as anything else above, like, a celebrity, right?
Okay,
But they bring it to this sort of godly level that
Yeah.
I thought was a bit strange. But
I don't know.
you know, the show,
But-
it really goes there. Like, essentially,
Yeah.
for the first season, the main character of the show is a xenophobe and a homophobe.
Yeah, so the show is about Jude Law's character,
Who's the new pope,
he's the new pope.
the youngest pope ever.
He's the young pope because the new pope is the sequel.
But he's also the new pope.
Yeah, he becomes pope, and he's like the youngest pope ever, and he's also the first American pope, which
True.
True. And it's all about him. I don't know how to explain his character. That's probably why I found it very odd, because when I first heard about the show, I thought it was going to be, you hear Jude Law is playing the character, and you hear it's like, I don't know, he's the first American pope, and you imagine like that. One of the first scenes is his like address to the people, and it's a dream, I think.
Yes.
Where he's like, we have forgotten to masturbate and things like that. And I was like, okay, that's the show I imagined it would be. Like, but then he just becomes this like truly devoutful, like to the point where scripture is scripture. So if a cardinal turns out to be homosexual, then it's like they have to go because
it takes the scripture as law instead of as an general guideline.
And then there are all these like little things where he like goes and talks to a prostitute, and it's like,
Well, I think the show is trying to make a arguably very confused statement about people in power and how do you deal with power when you're in power. As in, when you're a person with that kind of clout, like the Pope, like arguably even today, people still take the Pope's word as gospel, right? Like whatever the Pope is into, people feel it's legitimized by the fact that he's into it, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like with that type of power comes a great deal of scrutiny, as in, if you're the Pope, you can't just say anything, right?
Yeah.
You have a position that is, according to the church, very close to God.
Yes.
And people have an interpretation of what God is, especially in Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's almost like you're an amalgamation between a politician and an actual God, where you have the power to basically make anything happen. Anything you say is interpreted as law by default, but you also have to appease whatever other mentalities exist within the world. So, for example, previous popes, I think, and this is true, have tried to both adapt to the times as much as possible, but at the same time with the intention of preserving the church and its numbers, right? Whereas I think what Jude Law comes to the realization is none of this matters. It doesn't really, the politics of the Vatican don't matter, and what the people want doesn't matter. This is all politics. What should truly matter to the church is the ability of the church to bring you closer to God. Yeah. That's the one thing that should actually matter within the church. So in his albeit very ill-conceived attempt to bring people closer to God, he takes the scripture as law and tries to remove all the politics and essentially the appeasement of more liberal values from the church.
Yeah.
I think that's what's happening. I think it's a very interesting way to I think if you would take it in the direction that the intro suggests, it would have been probably I don't know, a much more fun watch, but I don't think it would have been as interesting.
I'll totally give you that, because
the fun part is the more you watch the show, you realize that everybody in the Vatican is gay.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Everybody.
And then there, of course, is the sequel, which is the new Pope, which
I haven't seen it all the way.
No, I haven't seen anything of it. So,
but it looks fun. John Malkovich is in it.
Yes,
he is the new Pope.
Yeah, he is the new Pope.
Because the old Pope died.
Well, died, and I don't know. Like, I was just internally confused by it. I don't know, but I will give you that it is a more interesting show than it would have been had they tried to go the route I thought they were gonna go.
That's fair.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it's not a very I don't know. It's not paced in the normal way where you're hooked from the first episode and you go all the way till the end of the season. It's a very slow burn, very, very slow burn.
Very, very slow.
And at times it can be, in my opinion, misconstrued to be very insulting.
Yeah, I think you could.
I don't think it's like a right-wing show or anything. I just think it's a show that tries to explore a character in a way that is so scandalous that it would make for an interesting watch, which to me it did. But I could see how people could see it as a,
I mean, I would actually say it's a very interesting portrayal of sort of the devoutness you can find in religion, or sort of the sort of conservative idea you can find, because he is a very conservative pope, in his ideals. And the show doesn't, I think, glorify him for it. I actually think quite the opposite. I think a lot of his sort of things is shown as being, extravagant and maybe too much. Like, I don't know.
The thing is, the show has a really, really muddled message because, spoiler alert, I guess this Pope has actual magical powers.
Yeah, that was another thing that I was a little bit by. Okay, so in the show, it is hinted or outright said.
It's pretty much, he has powers.
Well, it starts out by being hinted, like he will have a speech and then he will yell something, and just as he yells, lightning will be there, or he will leave and it will start raining, and you're like, did he do that? Is that what I'm supposed to read from this? And it's like,
yeah.
And then the show sort of goes on.
You see it and you can't believe it, right?
Yeah. Which is actually something I found quite interesting in contrast to his sort of character, because I don't know how I was supposed to feel about it, because he is, this very clearly devout, conservative pope, but he's also like magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He can make a sterile woman be pregnant again.
Yeah. That was also kind of weird.
Yeah. And it gets even crazier later on.
Yeah. I will say, good final shot of the first miniseries.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was an awesome shot. I thought that was one of the spoiler alert, one of the best renders of an Earth globe that I've ever seen.
Yeah. So, spoilers for people, but the final shot of the show is basically a giant zoom out from
the Vatican to the whole planet.
Yeah. And it's really well done.
Yeah. And I think the planet looks frozen.
I don't know.
I'm not sure what that meant.
No,
Maybe it will be explained in the new Pope if I ever actually decide to watch it again.
Yeah.
But anyway, in other news,
the new
Pope, Daniel, you have requested of me to.
Yes.
Oh, before that, fuck that. First of all, I just want to say
Fuck
I've been watching
request.
the new Harley Quinn cartoon, and it is amazing.
You're dead, Quinn. Hell yeah!
Yes.
I'm having the time of my life watching it. I never thought that a show about Harley Quinn could be this good, but it is. It's probably the best cartoon DC put out since Justice League.
Ooh. Okay, Justice League or Justice League Unlimited?
Well, Justice League Unlimited.
I was just testing you there.
Justice League Unlimited is just the next seasons of Justice
I know.
League. Okay.
I know.
Don't test me, boy.
I'll test you, boy.
But yeah, I really like Harley Quinn. King Shark is awesome. Love him.
Kite Man, as always.
Kite Man, nice.
I haven't seen it, but you told me that Kite Man is in it.
Kite Man. Poison Ivy is probably the best character in the show.
God.
Isn't this crazy?
Yeah.
Like, think about when Batman and Robin came out, and Poison Ivy was the worst character ever put on screen. And now she's probably one of the best characters in a TV show.
I mean, what about Bane?
Well, let's talk about dinner. I selected the beef well in advance and you stole it from me.
Oh, Bane is awesome. it's just somebody doing a bad Tom Hardy impression from The Dark Knight Rises, but with silly lines.
Can you really do a bad impression of that movie? Like, seriously? Like,
I shit you not. There's a point where Bane says, "I'm going to blow up this bar mitzvah."
I should sit down and watch it. It really sounds like something I would enjoy.
Oh yes, you can actually wait another week because the final episode of the season is coming out next week.
Okay, then I can wait and just go through the entire thing, like.
But yeah,
one line of cocaine.
100%. And it does feel like you're doing drugs because the pacing is relentless. It's very fast.
Okay. Unlike the young Pope, which feels like you're taking sleeping pills.
No, wait. What's the drug that mellows you? It's Adderall, I think.
Ambien?
Ambien, yeah. It's like taking pounds upon pounds of Ambien.
Snorting Ambien.
I don't think you can snort Ambien.
Isn't it a pill form?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess you can crush it and
just crush it and snort.
Daniel knows his drugs, ladies and gentlemen.
I do. It just reminds me of Arnie Hammer from Thank You for Calling. Or
I've never seen it.
No, you have is it called Thank You for Calling, where he's the guy who becomes a phone salesman and horse people.
No, Sorry to Bother You.
Sorry to Bother You. That was what it was called. I'm mixing it up with another movie. But in that movie, Arnie Hammer is playing the CEO of the company that the main character works for, and there's literally a scene of him doing like a 3-meter long cocaine line. It's great.
To be an American and to do coke, that's the dream.
That's the dream. Actually, I read an article, speaking of doing coke, that a lot of people in your area is going to get a letter from having bought weed.
Excuse me?
Okay, so I read this article that was basically a lot of the headline was something to the effect of a lot of people is going to get a letter from the police basically saying we know you bought a weed which was tied to a group of people who were selling weed in Esbjerg.
Yeah.
So that was just it. It was just
no, but I don't understand. Why would I get a letter?
I don't know if you're going to get a letter.
Do they just send letters to everybody assuming that they bought weed?
No, like they have somehow figured out like the client list of this like group of people who are selling weed in Esbjerg. It's like tied to some gang or something.
Do they know that most people buy secondhand?
Secondhand weed?
No, but you know.
I don't know.
As in, you don't buy from the actual distributor.
I don't know. I don't buy weed.
Is weed illegal? Still?
Yes.
Everybody's anyway. Now I don't know anything about it. So, what is this WEED you speak of?
We don't partake in the devil's lettuce, and neither should you.
Devil's lettuce. That's the latest name. The devil's lettuce.
The devil's lettuce.
All right, so I'm gonna expect that in the mail. Okay.
I think you would already have gotten it if
I didn't
you
get
were...
anything. So.
Okay, then you're still
clean.
clear. You're
clean.
clean. You have evidence now. You know, evidence now being clean.
All right. Shall we get to the fucking Oscar discussion that you've been wetting your
Heckling you
pants
about.
over? All right, so I did a lot of research because you triggered me, Daniel.
Oh, I triggered you.
Now I'm gonna go on a small explanation / tirade, and
Okay, I'm just gonna leave and then come back in like 20 minutes.
all right.
I'm
So
joking.
my opinion. So as you know, the Oscars are gonna
Oscars
broadcast
is tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
So by the time this podcast airs, it's gonna be long and gone. Congratulations to
Parasite.
for all the awards.
Yeah, basically.
Look,
so we're recording.
Here's my.
Yeah.
Okay, Daniel, please.
No.
Capiche?
See.
So listen. See. Oh my god. Listen. My only problem with the Academy Awards is that it's interpreted by. It's actually because everybody has a problem with it, right? I think the problem with it is two-way, as in there's a problem internally with the way they judge and obviously reward certain movies, right?
Yeah.
But there's also a problem externally with the people that are observing the Oscars, aka us, the public.
Yes.
Where we think that the Oscars should be this body that reacts to whatever the fuck we want. But that's not how any sort of governing body / I don't know, authority works. Like if you go to Sundance,
Yeah.
the Sundance doesn't choose movies based on whatever the public is into. They have juries, and the juries decide the winners. That's just how it works.
Yes.
You know, that's why that's what gives it the actual prestige. You're not recognized by, and obviously there's a component to movies where it's very arguable which one is more important, like the recognition from critics and your peers and the recognition from the general audience, right?
Yeah.
But that's what gives it the prestige at a festival, to be recognized by your peers, right? And that's not to say certain festivals, a lot of them have the audience prize, right?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So I think what people, when they watch the Oscars and are disappointed, that don't understand is that the Oscars shouldn't even react at all to whatever the audience wants. It's a industry award. If you don't like it, don't watch it and don't care about it. I don't understand why people are emotionally invested. They get emotionally invested. Oh my god, somebody's drilling into the house. What the fuck? I don't get why people are so emotional. Every year they find a thing about the Oscars that they get so ridiculously emotionally invested in. Like, remember when they were like, "Oh, I can't believe Leo didn't get an Oscar. He better get an Oscar this year." Who gives a... This man is a millionaire. Jesus Christ. He's one of the most recognized stars in the world. Does it really matter that he wins an Oscar or not? It just, oh my god, it's insane. I was so upset by this when this whole thing was happening. And it's not because I hate Leonardo DiCaprio or whatever. I just don't think it's important to him. Or even if it is, it's not something that changes anything within anything. Like, it's not like now he can throw away his Oscar clout It's not like beforehand he wasn't one of the biggest movie stars in the world and could do any project that he wanted to anyway.
Yeah.
The statue did nothing. and people, maybe he was really worked up about it. Maybe he really wanted an Oscar, and that's fine. You know, he wants something. That's fine with me. But people got worked up about it. That people that don't know and probably saw only 2 Leonardo DiCaprio movies their whole lives, and they got so worked up they were pulling hairs out of their heads and beating up their children over this. And it's insane. And all stuff like, oh, I can't believe they announced La La Land instead of Moonlight. It was a mistake. It happens. It's a production. Shit just kind of happens. People, I don't know. It feels like at this point people are really looking into making anything about the Oscars more special than they actually are. They're just an industry award. The only problem with it, with its actual organization that plays into this, it's that it's televised, right? It's on NBC or something.
Maybe
MSNBC.
No, I think
something
it's NBC.
like that. NBC.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people watch live. Apparently, their audiences have been in decline. Obviously, this is not something that is worth watching. And I'm not being mean to the people putting up the production. An award ceremony is just not that interesting.
Okay, speaking of somebody...
It's not... Shut up, Daniel. It's not good television, okay?
No, it isn't.
It's not even like a tournament. Like, let's say you watch a tournament end to end, like 12 episodes of, I don't know, Survivor or whatever. You've seen these people go through trials and whatever, and then the end is the ceremony where you pick the winner. That's makes sense, at least. But here you're just watching the ceremony. There's no way you've seen all these fucking movies anyway. Or very few people have, you know. So, you know, what are you actually watching? You're watching musical performances live? Is that what you're watching? You know? Can you hear me, Daniel?
Yes, he's back.
All right, Daniel. Let me continue. So,
yes, continue.
There's no entertainment value in watching the actual event. And these motherfuckers try so hard to squeeze any sort of entertainment value out of this fucking award ceremony. They fucking do selfies. They fucking do musical numbers. They take photos with Kevin Spacey. Everything they can.
Yeah, I was also thinking about that. Okay, for those who don't know, Ellen hosted the Oscars a couple of years ago. And sort of the big thing she did was she took this massive selfie with like, I don't know, 20 different people. And in the middle top of that image is Kevin Spacey. And that photo has aged. Go look it up. It's a great photo.
It's aged beautifully, I would argue.
It's aged just right.
Yeah, I would say I would offer an award just for the person who tried the most to make the Oscars work. And it should probably go to Hugh Jackman for his amazing musical opening that he did. Like
why haven't they brought Hugh Jackman back? Why haven't they brought Hugh Jackman back to host?
Because he knows it's not worth it. They probably asked him, and he was like, "Nah, mate."
Just wheel out the Muppets. Who cares?
I'm out in Australia hunting wombats.
No, he's trying to turn off the fires single-handedly.
He's trying to turn off the fires. And every year they try to make like jokes and puns and all this shit, and it's all so tired because they have to, because it's a televised thing, and there's an anticipation of it being entertaining, which is not. It's not entertaining. Have you ever watched the Sundance Awards, Daniel?
No, actually.
The Cannes Awards?
Nope.
Do you want to know why you haven't watched them?
Because they're not televised?
Well, also that. But
also because they don't exist?
You wouldn't want to watch them. I don't think you would. You know, you just read the results.
Stephen, have you ever watched the Oscars?
I've watched clips. I watched segments. I had the full video of it, but I never watched it all the way. I just skipped through it.
I have been a person who had, because okay, the Oscars in Denmark are like Monday
The Danish
night.
Oscars?
No, the Oscars showcased in Denmark, because we
All
do
right.
actually get it. You can actually watch it if you have
Live?
regular. Yeah, if you have. Do you have Flow TV, like regular
No.
channels? Okay.
No, we don't
There-
pay for that.
There is a Danish channel called TV2, and they
TV2.
they show the Oscars live.
Oh, cool.
And for Denmark, it is usually Monday night. So the
Isn't
Oscars
it very
is
late night, like 4 a.m?
yeah, like the Oscars
Jesus
wouldn't end
Christ.
until like 6 a.m. Monday. And I have been up watching the entire fucking thing. I can tell you from first-hand account, it does not fucking matter. It is
No, but it's an industry award. It's
Yeah.
like watching the premieres for the Fishing League Association. Who gets
Okay.
the trophy for the most fishes fished? Oh, it's this guy.
I think this
Hooray.
analogy is falling a bit apart, Stephen.
What do you mean?
The Fishing Association.
Well, you have an association of fishermen, and
Do
they
you?
want to award. Let's hypothetically speaking, you have this association of fishermen, and they want to give an award. Like, these awards usually are meant to basically set a gold standard, saying like, look, this is what we want in an ideal fisherman, and they give it to fucking Gus or whatever.
Yes.
And that's it. They just hand the thing over to him, and that's it. Like, there's no there's no magic to it. Okay, it's just an award.
Yes.
And that's proven by the fact that at other festivals, other movies win, because it's I don't even know how to explain this anymore. It's like people don't even understand how contests work.
Well, the problem with the Oscars, you talked about also the internal problems of the Oscars. One of them is also that it's literally a money competition.
Yeah, and it's
Like-
obviously they're gonna promote people. They're gonna promote people who are within their system. You know.
No, but I think if we look at the nominees, for instance,
Yeah. Fuck.
the nominees are not decided by people who have seen every movie.
Well, it
It is-
also
it is-
not every movie is in competition.
No, but what I'm getting to here is that the movies that usually get nominated are the ones that have a big Oscar campaign behind it, and that
Yeah,
requires
because
money.
otherwise you're not even like you need to also be shown in theaters
Yeah.
for more than 7 days, I think.
But the regular rule is you just need to be shown at least once in New York and LA. I think that's the
I
law.
think so. Yeah.
The law. But
Ah.
the the idea is basically like, okay, we could make a movie, Stephen, a theoretical movie. This could be the best movie of the year.
I think if it's a movie, it should be practical, not theoretical. I'm sorry. Continue.
Anyway, let's say we made a movie and it's the best movie of the year.
Sure.
The fact that it's the best movie of the year has no bearing on the fact that it will be nominated for an Oscar.
No.
Like,
You
that's a
could,
fact.
in theory, if it's that good, you would get sponsors at other festivals that would agree. These sponsors would be basically major studios
Yeah, or
that
you would
handle independent films like Searchlight or A24
Yeah.
or something like that,
yeah,
and they would sponsor your
or
Oscar
Annapurna
campaign.
or whatever. Yeah,
Which, in the case of independent movies, sometimes it's more expensive than the actual movie.
yeah. But actually, fun fact about that one: normally, a independent movie studio like A24, is it A24 or A21? I can never remember.
A24.
Okay, they usually spend about $250,000 on a campaign, whereas
Yeah.
somebody like
Warner
is the only
Brothers.
person I have numbers on. Sorry, but somebody like Harvey Weinstein, when he worked at Miramax, would spend like $3 million on a campaign, and he would win.
Yeah, but that's also because that was part of his business model.
Sure.
Part of his movies being successful was releasing them in Oscar season, winning awards, and then that would boost his ticket sales and his DVD sales.
Yeah. That was his job, essentially.
Yeah.
But it also
it was his way of making money, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's also just a showcase of the fact that being the best movie doesn't really...
No, it has nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Like, again, like, we always end up forgetting who wins Best Picture. That's the fun thing about it. Like, who won last year?
I think it got worse. I think it got worse and worse. I think at some point, it probably actually was closer to what was a... Best is a very subjective term, right? But I think at some point, Best Pictures were actually great movies, you know?
I mean, the Oscars,
some of the nominations were, you know?
Yeah. Like, I would always say the Oscars hit somewhere, you know, close to where most people would say, okay, these are, if not the best movies of the year, at least good movies from the year. So if we look at...
pretty good.
Yeah. Like, if we look at the nominees this year, there are 8 nominees this year. Like, we both like
Best
Parasite.
Picture, you mean?
Yeah, Best Picture.
Yeah.
Like, we both like Parasite.
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah. And we both like... no. Did you see The Irishman?
No.
Okay. I like The Irishman, personally. Sure. I haven't seen Little Women, but I did like Marriage Story, and I haven't seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And
I've seen it twice in cinema.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Like, so the Oscars has hit somewhat, you know.
Well, hit what? What are we talking about, Daniel? Are you talking about your own preferences, or what are we talking about?
Well, if we talk about other people's preferences, then we can look at things like box office.
No, but I just want you to be clear. Are you talking now about the fact that the Oscars are somewhat aligned with your own preferences for what you like best this
what
year?
I'm saying is that even though the Oscars is a big money machine, or which it is, the idea is also that the Oscars, it's not like everything the Oscar calls a best picture is automatically shit.
No,
like,
that's true.
Like, there are still movies that won't get nominated, and that's because the Oscars is voted on by people in the industry. So there is some sort of alignment between a good movie and then an Oscar nomination, to an extent.
Sure. But as we know, by this point, there are certain tropes that have formed over the years, right?
Definitely the trope of an Oscar movie.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate, because a lot of them have become very uninteresting to me, personally.
Looking at you, Ford v Ferrari.
I was thinking more 1917, but sure. I agree with that one as well.
Yeah.
So I think the trope is more akin to basically creating a period piece, a period drama, which from the start is something that I generally don't like.
Yeah.
As in, I prefer movies about the present because you have a lot of meat to digest when it comes to the present. You can talk about all the things happening in the world. But when you're talking about the past, you're basically just tackling the same points over and over again.
Yeah, I can see that.
Whereas, and also, what's also popular is movies about the industry, right? Like, you make movies about people making movies.
Like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Exactly. Or La La Land, right?
Yep.
And it just feels very circle jerky, right?
Yeah.
And also, I am done with movies about about the 2 world wars. I don't want to see them. I don't want to hear about them. Do you want to know why, Daniel?
I have a thought, but sure, go.
Because they're made from just 2 perspectives. It's either the British or Americans, and they jerk themselves off so much. And they did basically, I don't want to get into a political thing, but they did almost nothing during the 2 fucking wars, and they won't stop Oh my goodness, just let it go. Stop it. I pretty much got to my limit when I saw Dunkirk, and it ended on a what looked like a Carlsberg commercial.
Yes.
And the movie is excellent on a technical level. I'm not saying that. And so probably so is 1917 from what I hear. I haven't watched it, but I hear it's excellently shot and whatever. But I just can't watch these movies anymore because they're about the same thing. They all reached their zenith somewhere around 1998 with Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
And they're just not interesting anymore. Like, goddamn, do anything else. I'm not saying don't do anything in that time period, but fuck's sake, you know?
Yeah.
I would love for that's the reason why I really liked Fury.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Fury was even that good, but at the very least it had a different perspective.
I like Fury, actually. I don't
I
love
also
it,
like Fury,
but I like it.
I think the only mistake that movie made was I think it should have kept the whole movie inside the tank. The whole movie.
Yeah.
Never show outside the tank. It would have been a beautiful claustrophobic nightmare.
Yeah.
But anyway, but again, these are my personal preferences. People, I don't know. Do people still even care? As in, does winning an Oscar do anything for your sales anymore?
I don't actually know. Like, I mean, I do think that from a box office perspective, if your movie is still in theaters, which of course some of these movies
even plays in theaters,
sure. Well, we don't have the Netflix numbers, and we're probably never gonna get them because Netflix. But
because fuck you.
Yes, I would actually think that if, okay, let's say 1917 wins tomorrow.
All of them.
Yeah, wins Best Picture and Best Director and things like that.
Metacritic has it between 1917 and Parasite.
Yeah, and that would also be my bet if I were to pick. Slight edge to 1917. No, it's not. This is actually, like I told you before we started, I found IndieWire has a survey they did with 128 film critics about the movies that deserve to win, and they have like all of the nominees, and then they have the amount of votes they got. Best Picture is Parasite is number one, with 64 of the votes going to they think Parasite deserves to win. The two bottom ones are Joker with 1 vote and Ford v Ferrari with 0 votes. That just gave me a giggle.
What else is left to say?
Yeah, like
I haven't seen Ford v Ferrari, but it's just.
It looks like a fine movie, but a Best Picture movie? Like,
I'll tell you what it is. It's another one.
Yeah.
You can put it on the poster. It's another one.
It's another one of those.
Yeah. Oh, it's one of those.
One of those.
That's the reaction it gets.
But yeah, like I would also say it's between 1917 and Parasite. I would hope Parasite wins, personally, because it's a great movie. But I think 1917 is going to win because it's obvious.
But even if Parasite wins, like, this is not. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a jaded fuck, but
maybe.
More certainly. But it's not important to me whether or not Parasite wins because it's not about that to me. To me,
yeah, like
I want to see people show interest in challenging, provocative movies. Not hitch horse race, like pretend the Academy Awards is a horse race where they have a betting horse and they're like, I hope my horse wins. Gee, I hope 1970 wins, or I hope Parasite. Like, that doesn't fucking matter. Do you see the other nominees? It's all just other Oh, it's Joker, Once Upon a Time. What else is nominated for Best Picture?
Okay, the Best Picture nominees are Parasite, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Irishman, Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, and Ford v Ferrari. Sorry, there are 9 nominees.
Yeah. Oh, was it more than half of these are period pieces about America?
Do we count Marriage Story as a period piece?
No, I don't know. I haven't
It's early
seen
2000s.
it.
think
No,
it's in-
probably not.
So we have The Irishman, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Little Women, 1917, Jojo Rabbit, Joker. It takes place during the 80s.
Yeah,
Holy
that counts.
So it's basically just, if we don't count Marriage Story, it's basically 2 movies that are not period pieces.
There you go. Like even that on itself is horrible. Because all you're doing is just hearkening back to the past. It's the worst concept you can do. Instead of doing exciting movies about the present or the future, or just not even do a fantasy. You just do movies about the fucking 80s or the 40s. Jesus Christ. What the fuck?
It is actually kind of funny now that I think about it. If you look at like a timeline, and then you go, where on the timeline are these movies? If you go from like, I don't know, 1800 to today, then it's like most of them are around, 1917 to like the 80s.
Yeah. Because that's a time people feel nostalgic about. There's a lot of iconography based around those times.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying that a movie set in that time period is automatically bad.
No,
I'm
it's more
just
that
saying-
it's more that these are the movies that get, I don't know.
I'm just saying that
Dominated.
they're all boring. They are all boring. Even Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Again, seen it twice in theater. The worst part about the movie is that it's set in the 60s, in my opinion. And it's not. I'm not saying that it's the worst part because of the production design. The production design is beautiful. The costumes are beautiful. Congratulations to everybody who worked on that. What I'm saying is that it has that element of La La Land, of Hollywood jerking themselves off and talking about themselves.
Yeah.
I would love to see a Quentin Tarantino movie like Kill Bill again, where it's just, it doesn't matter when this takes place, that doesn't matter. It's about the story, the characters, and that's it. That's what drives the movie. Not that it's set in the 1960s. Jesus. When did the time period become the story? Oh my God.
I think we hit a nerve with Steven here.
Does it matter when Parasite takes place, Daniel?
No, not really.
It's
Other
a
than-
story that's applicable anywhere, anytime.
I mean, of course, there are some things with like technology and stuff, but
Sure.
even then, it's like, does it matter?
Does it matter when The Lighthouse takes place?
Kind of.
Oh shit! Never mind.
Well, because they don't have
still
it.
not be sent to a lighthouse today.
Sure, but it's more, well, okay. The thing I'll say about the Lighthouse in that regard is that the time period sort of is important because it's sort of the entire visual identity and also the way they talk is built around that period they're in, and
Right.
of course the classic, they don't have phones.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's true.
But outside of that, it's like you don't really know when it's set. Like, I know because I've seen interviews with the director and he's talked about, it's set around 1890. But it's like, I don't think there's any point in the movie where they literally spell like 1890. This is where we are, kind of a thing. It's just like the period doesn't really. It's almost like the period doesn't matter, but also kind of matters.
It's a bottle movie. It takes place in one location, essentially. So the period is never really explored, right?
Yeah. It's not like it's not like with how I imagine Once Upon a, or like with The Irishman, because I've seen that movie, where they actually use the period to talk about the period, you know. Like they use it to showcase, okay, this was how it was like being a gangster in like in these eras, in this era that The Irishman covers, and how it changed, and how, you know, political involvement happened and things like that. The Lighthouse doesn't really deal with that because, again, it's a bottle movie. Like,
Yeah.
you could literally
A
take these
bottle
two
movie
characters.
means that it takes place in one location,
Yeah.
essentially.
And you could literally take these two characters and put them anywhere.
Yeah.
And
I haven't
and
seen it, but, you know.
you
from
should.
what I've
It's
heard,
great.
Yeah. I want to. We just didn't have time.
And it's kind of the same with Parasite. I was actually thinking about it as you were talking, that because Parasite is set in the present day, it doesn't have anything to sort of glorify about the present day. Maybe the house, but again, the house is sort of also described as being just a piece of architecture.
Yeah.
Whereas from what I can understand of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, having not seen it, and especially in The Irishman, there is a lot of, and in things like Joker, like they use the period to sort of to like say something like, oh, look at how ugly, because Joker basically takes place in New York. I know it's supposed to be Gotham, but it's New York.
Yeah,
It's
but
like,
in the
oh,
comics also, Gotham is supposed to be a reflection of New York, essentially.
yeah, but it's like, oh, look how horrible it looked in like the 80s and things like that. Or with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like, look how Hollywood looked in the 60s and
Yeah.
what
I
that
could
meant.
watch a documentary about that, you know.
Yeah. But Parasite, because it's set in the present day, it doesn't really use its location to the same effect, really. Like, there is the thing with like the half basement thing that they live in, and then of course the rich family's house. But it's, I don't know, it's kind of interesting that because Parasite is set in modern day, it doesn't feel like it has to sort of point out the fact that it's set in any particular place in time in the same way these other movies are.
I still
kind of
think the movie explores the past through its present.
Yeah, it explores like the history of
Both the house, the two sets of families, the two families.
Yeah.
You know, but it's, again, that's how you actually that's how you experience the past. You experience it through the present, and that's how you recontextualize it. That's the beauty of learning history.
Yeah.
You know, not living a fantasy where you live in the 80s.
Yeah.
I don't know. Look, all of these movies are fine. This is it's gonna happen tomorrow, and it's not gonna matter 2 days after that. So
yeah, like, honestly, if it comes out Monday, if I wake up Monday morning and read that, I don't know, Ford v Ferrari won Best Picture, I'll be like, sure,
why not?
Who cares?
I just want to say that Avengers Endgame got snubbed, and Martin Scorsese should have his awards taken from him because he said Marvel movies are a carousel ride or whatever.
Can we talk about that video, Steven, that you sent me?
Oh, is Joker Cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I just
Steven
want
sent me
to shout out the channel because I think that guy is really good.
Now you see it.
Now you see it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is it's a very good YouTube channel that does like video essays and things like that about movies.
Yeah, so it's basically a compilation video of people either reconfirming, backtracking, or addressing the idea of comic book movies being cinema, and then also interspliced with the whole discussion about the Joker movie. I never knew that Joaquin Phoenix was in talks to play Doctor Strange.
I knew that.
But yeah, I really like. Yeah, I knew this before. I really like Joaquin Phoenix in interviews because he just no-sells everything.
Yeah, I like Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix is great. He's also the best part about Joker, which is...
obviously, like, you know, I still don't. Should I watch Joker? I'm not. This essay made me want to watch it. Honestly,
Yeah. But the fun thing that the movie does, which I thought was very funny, is it sort of interconnects, because it's no secret that Joker is very heavily inspired by especially King of Comedy and also a bit Taxi Driver,
Yes.
both Martin Scorsese movies. So it sort of intercuts those two movies to the point where there is a clip where it looks like Travis Bickle is hitting Joker with his taxi. Which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, that was
But
awesome.
actually, the thing I found really interesting were the small clips about Robert Downey Jr., where he's talking.
Yeah. On the Joe Rogan podcast,
Yeah.
I think.
When those quantum physicist guys start breaking down the nature of reality and they come up with, I don't know how the fuck they do this. I'm just talking out of my ass.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So there is a clip of the Joe Rogan podcast where Robert Downey Jr. is on, and he's talking about how he's being asked how it is to be an actor in basically these big Marvel movies and how much input you have. And he basically confirms that you basically have no input as an actor. Like,
to be fair, I've watched the whole Robert Downey Jr. episode on Joe Rogan.
yeah,
The clip is taken slightly out of context.
yeah,
As in, Robert Downey Jr.'s opinion, and this I think is true of most actors, and it's just part of your craft, is that you more or less roll with the punches. As in, if something is modified in the script, you have to learn the new pages of the script and then do your best to interpret that on screen.
yeah,
It's not your job as an actor to offer. It's a complicated thing. As in, obviously, as a director, you have to work with the actor in some sort of creative capacity towards how they want to construct the character.
yeah,
But especially in big productions where the characters and their characterization is very important to the overall franchise, you can't really, how to explain it? You can't go too far out, you know?
yeah. So, okay, what was I thinking? Yeah, okay, if you take like the idea of Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, Johnny
Depp,
yeah.
Yeah, a character very influenced by how Johnny Depp wanted to play him. And how Johnny Depp sort of saw this character.
Yeah, a rock star, basically.
Yeah. He basically wanted him to play
Keith Richards.
Jack Sparrow as a washed-up rock star.
Yeah, he influenced by Keith Richards.
Yes.
From Rolling Stones.
Yes. Who plays his dad in the third movie.
Yes. A nice, nice touch.
Yes. But so that is an example of an actor being allowed by the director, because the studio didn't really care for this idea originally, to influence the character. So had the studio and the original vision been carried through, who knows what Captain Jack Sparrow would have looked like. But I think what I understood from how Robert Downey Jr. talked about it, of course I haven't seen the entire Joe Rogan interview,
and also how it's really good,
and how you explain it right now is when you're working in such a big system, if let's say Robert Downey Jr. wanted to play Iron Man completely differently, he wouldn't really be allowed to.
It's also, the thing is, you have to keep in mind that his movie, his first Iron Man, was the first movie.
Yeah.
So there wasn't that much, and that at that time Marvel wasn't even part of Disney, and so it was basically an indie movie, right?
Yeah.
And so that had a lot of creative freedom, and that's the building block. So his character in particular is actually very influenced by his ideas.
Okay.
Because he played it. He actually talked about it that the character in the comic books has struggled with alcoholism, and he in personal life has had struggles with that, with addiction.
Yeah.
So he incorporated a lot of that into the character.
Yeah.
You know.
But Okay, so a better example would be if Joaquin Phoenix had been cast as Doctor Strange.
It would be miserable.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been allowed to say, okay, I think the character should do it like this or something like that.
Yeah.
Because the Marvel machine would have been going at that point.
You know,
basically.
and it's one of the, it's actually, I think, talked about in the, you see it thing, where improvisation can be both good and bad.
Yeah.
As in,
definitely.
Improvisation, I think, in movies, the one example that I always think about that I think is the best type of improvisation is in Forrest Gump, when he's on the bus and he meets Bubba the first time. Bubba is sitting next to him on the bus. They're both heading towards Vietnam, I think, and
they're
Bubba
heading
says,
to the they're heading to the military.
To the military to train to go to Vietnam. Yes.
Yeah, I think.
And Bubba says like, I'm Benjamin Buford Bub or whatever, but people call me Bubba. And he shakes his hand, and Forrest Gump goes, my name is Forrest Gump. And then Tom Hanks improvised, people call me Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
And that's such a beautiful touch, right? And it shows that you as an actor know your character.
Yeah.
And you're comfortable enough to do that. It's
thing...
basically the same way people write characters. Like a well-written character is written by a writer who understands the character very well. And then the dialogue that he writes sounds very natural.
Because it is, kind of.
Yes. So an actor that also understands the character can add lines that can also sound very natural.
Yeah, because they know the character well enough to say, oh, the character would... Like, for instance, Tom Hanks knew Forrest Gump so well that he knew that Forrest Gump would add that extra little bit.
Yeah, because he's innocent and quirky.
Yeah. But the thing I found kind of interesting about the little bit in the video was because it's intercut with Joaquin Phoenix talking about, and also Todd Phillips talking about how they work together to create the character. And how, like, Joaquin Phoenix would call Todd Phillips up in the middle of the night and talk for like 2 hours about, oh, I think he would do this. And you know.
They workshopped it, essentially.
Yeah. Which actually reminds me a bit of Paul Thomas Anderson and Daniel Day-Lewis. Because whenever they work together on like There Will Be Blood and Phantom Thread, and was there one more?
I think that's it. No, wait, no, that's it.
Yeah. Especially with the Phantom Thread, Paul Thomas Anderson has talked a lot about how when he was writing the movie, he talked a lot with Daniel Day-Lewis about how his character was going to be. So to the point when they were actually shooting, he didn't really need to give him any directions because they both knew the character so well that he could just say to Daniel Day-Lewis, oh, go, and he would just go. It also happens he's Daniel Day-Lewis, and he's...
And that, and just to, on the other side of the spectrum, you have Jared Leto sending the cast and crew of Suicide Squad dead rats in envelopes.
And filled condoms? Wasn't there something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah.
And that's, that's some other type of improvisation that,
I also don't think Jared Leto is the kind of actor you should let improvise. There are some actors who are really good at improvising, and there are some actors who are like, yeah, you should just direct them.
Yeah. It's a...
I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing that he may or may not be a good improviser. I'm just saying that's how some actors are.
Yeah, true. Oh boy.
So I think you basically got all the things out about the Oscars that I wanted to talk about, really, through your rant.
If you want to add a finishing touch, Daniel, what movie you think you get one?
Okay.
That should definitely be nominated that wasn't.
The Lighthouse.
The Lighthouse. All right,
yeah.
I haven't seen it. If I
it's
were to pick one.
It's a very personal choice because, like, there are other movies that are probably equally as good, but I just love that movie. So yeah, The Lighthouse.
I mean, I'm divided between Cats and Batman versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
What?
You don't know about Batman?
No.
Oh
I mean,
my god! It's one of those animated DC movies.
Oh my god, I didn't know they made... I mean, I know that Batman has had some weird crossovers in the comics, like there's Batman versus Alien.
Yes,
and
but
there's
Batman
also
versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, but I didn't know they had actually made a...
Oh yeah, and Batman in the movie says, "It's pizza time."
You can't leave now. It's pizza time.
Yes. I need
Dude.
to watch this.
Give this all the Oscars.
Actually, now that you mentioned Cats, I was actually thinking we were also going to talk about this. Cats is apparently a massive success, kind of, because the studio, I can't remember what studio made it, has basically decided to just make a lot of like, kind of like The Room showings. So The Room has all of for those who don't know, The Room has all of these fan showings right now. The Room, a famously terrible movie, has these like very almost insane showings where people like yell at the screen and they throw spoons at it and things like that.
Yeah, it's like the Rocky Horror Picture Show screenings.
Yeah. And that's
People
basically
dress
what they're
up
doing
and
with
stuff.
Cats. Is they're
Yeah.
doing
Good stuff.
special screenings where people can like sing along and they can like yell and be like crazy.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
I should go watch a fan screening of The Room. There is a cinema in Copenhagen that is apparently the oldest, or one of the first cinemas that started doing that,
All right.
and one of the cinemas that has been doing that type of screening for the longest. And they do like a couple of screenings every month, basically. I should go see it.
And then it imploded and became stars, and then it sucked in and became geometric patterns, and then became neon colored worms that were making love to each other in a giant infinite bundle of yarn. Like, it becomes weirder and weirder shit.
Look, I have a very broad band of tolerances.